All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Gastro Gamer, and welcome to BrigadeCon. This is awesome. I am so excited to be doing this wonderful panel with some of my wonderful friends. Today, I have Michael Lashambe, and Rob is somewhere in the ethers and in the spaces. So if he joins us today, Rob Colletta from Performance Check is going to be with us. Otherwise, I have the most wonderful friend I've got here in Mike Lashambe, a.k.a. Mike the Piper. Dude, it is so awesome to be having you here and just sort of chatting about voices in the morning. I love it.
Definitely. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to BrigadeCon. I am extremely excited for this year's BrigadeCon. We have been already seen amazing games come out. We've had a lot of great discussions over on the social hangouts. There are 5 social hangout rooms going on at brigadecon.com. Definitely go check it out. Go hang out in it. I'll be floating on through, just creeping. Talking with people. Yes. It is 5 a.m. where I'm at. It's 5 a.m. where Chad is at. I made the mistake of saying, hey, I'm just going to get a little shut-eye. It's, what is that, 4 or 5 hours of sleep? Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. That was a mistake. It was a mistake. However, I am psyched. I am pumped. Why am I psyched and I'm pumped? Because we are doing this for a great cause. This is for kids who are sick, who are, they have a rough shot in life. We have a chance now. Yeah, I got my BrigadeCon shirt here. Look at that. Boom. Yeah, I went all out and had and picked up this beautiful shirt. You can pick up BrigadeCon t-shirts at the store front, I believe, if memory serves me correctly. I'm pretty sure someone's going to correct me, probably, which is probably a good idea. And I will say that go out and donate. Give to kids. Let's beat the hell out of that donate button. Let's destroy it. Let's give an opportunity for kids to be kids. A lot of them are in tough situations, and I could speak about that for hours. But we are here to talk about voices and voice acting and bringing life to NPCs and bringing life to your player characters. So let's do this.
Thank you very much, Mike. Yeah, man, this is going to be cool. So what we're going to do today, folks, is I'm going to start out with answering, we're going to start with some questions, some basic questions. And then later on, I have a scenario that I had the guys roll for me. And we're going to use that scenario to kind of form a faction. And we're going to form some NPCs based off of that faction. So I'm excited to do this. I hope you guys are excited to just sit down and play around with us. It's going to be really cool. All right. So I guess I'll start by asking you there, Mike. What was your first time trying voices at the table?
I actually began quite late in my RPG life, I guess would be kind of like the best way to do it. When I first started, like about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, that's when I started playing role-playing games. And I began to, I've been watching like other people, most notably the Provokers, as a lot of people here who are aware of and who have watched season 1, What a Game, and listening to them be so emotive and so just evocative, not through their actions, but through their speech, through, their inflections and even through accents. I thought to myself, wow, this is some pretty amazing stuff. So when it came time for me to try my very first game, I did the same. And at first it was nervous. It was nerve-wracking. So I'm like, well, what if someone thinks I'm insulting someone's heritage, or what if someone thinks I'm just being, I'm just ridiculous, and what if, usual, right? It's the same. The first, the jitters. But you know what? At the end of it, I had a great time, and I just let go, and I got to learn more about the character that I played, and it was worth it. was completely and utterly worth it. It was probably one of the most fun experiences I've ever had, was social interaction through a character, but in a way that I made this character my own.
Yeah, man. Like that's awesome because I guess I'll answer my own questions then. But I completely agree with you. For me, I didn't start getting into tabletop gaming until a couple of years ago. Actually, Matt came home from college and he was just like, hey, we're getting our tabletop gaming group together. Do you want to join in? And I was like, heck yeah, sure. I've never done it. I totally want to try this out. And we were playing Pathfinder at the time. And at that time in my life, I really wasn't doing, I mean, I was doing voices, but I was just basically talking to myself and like learning different voices. Like there's just plenty of times where you're just doing monologues in the mirror just to learn. But at the time, I was not really doing voices at the table because I just wasn't really familiar or ready for it. And then later on, as things progressed and you tried different stuff, you were like, oh, hey, I'm going to try this voice for this character or this thing. And you just, the more and more comfortable you get, the more you feel like I can expand on just using my normal voice instead of, and then going into character.
Oh, you know what? Definitely. And that's the thing is, like when I was prepping to play Edric Meadows, that was one of the biggest things. That was one of the main things that I was looking at. Not just the stats, not just the character sheet. Like, okay, do I have the right modifier? Do I have, am I picking the right stats or feats? A lot of it was, who is my character? And that was one thing I wrote at the very top of the character sheet is, who are you? And I was just, I was racking my brain. I was thinking about it, like, what does he sound like? Where is he from? And that is one way that helped me find my character's voice was, delving into that backstory and saying, okay, where is he from? Well, he's from a farming community, farming communities generally, traditionally, and sometimes, albeit stereotypically, sometimes are, they're closed communities. Maybe they roll their, they roll their words, their vowels or sounds. They talk very quickly or clipped. And then as you start thinking about it, it begins to get more and more rounded. And you think more like Guernsey or other areas in the Midlands where people just they talk and say, oh hey, how's it going there, Edric? Oh, fine there. Just going down, nicking down the shop there and get you nothing, and it's like, okay, yeah, you know what? I can roll with this. I can see Edric being like this now. And then when you get the voice, like when you get the basic, how does your character sound? Well, then you think of the character's upbringing, and like, where's this? What is this character experience? What have they done with their lives? And then something like that will dictate, well, how they speak to people. Like a lot of people think, okay, well, you just talk in an accent and that's fine. But then if you think about it, when you go on and like say, okay, well, for example, what if maybe Edric, wasn't a super nice guy? What if he was more of a bully or something? Oi, you looking at me? Come on then. Show you how we do things back home.
Look at you.
Exactly. But exactly. And so, you can hear the inflections change now. Now when I play Edric, he's very much this kind of naive, fresh-faced, he's this naive and fresh-faced kid. And, oh, I'm so excited to be here. And, oh, look, we're on the internet. Like he's very like, oh my gosh, I want to experience all the things, and that's what Edric wants to do. He wants to experience these things, and he's grown up listening to stories about heroes and dragons and princesses and fae and all these things. And of course, it's all wrong, but to him, it's so important to him. So he has that kind of general naivety. He has that kind of general curiosity about life and everything else. And, that's where I put the inflections into that kind of an aspect.
Yeah, man.
And a lot of times, like, I mean, one of the big things is that, as people do that, like a lot of people should understand that in the end, you're just there to have fun. Are voices and accents like mandatory? No. They can help you with player immersion or character immersion. They can definitely help you as GMs when you're trying to discern between different NPCs that the people talk to, right? Like I think there was a Family Guy episode that I thought like captured it absolutely perfectly when that guy did that one man play. He's like, "Yeah, I remember my grandmother, Tommy, go to the store. I'm out of milk." And as I was going, down, I met my good friend Buster. Hey, Tommy, how's it going? Like, so he's just doing the same voice, like throughout the entire thing, and
I've got to watch that now because that's
yeah,
awesome.
actually, it was pretty good. And here's the kicker though. So you have like you can do those kind of voices, but then when you like to have some kind of just a change and a way to, like, I find as a GM, throwing out different accents and voices on different types of people, no, it does two things. One, it captures your players to bring them in and say, who is this guy? And why does he talk the way he talks? Why does he act the way he acts? It's kind of weird. And the second thing is it makes, like, and especially if you're in a homebrew world, it kind of it populates your world. Like if for Valos, the Ironhead Chronicles,
Mm-hmm.
or for Aeronoth, for Inkea, Dragon Grin, all these different places have a big assortment of people. And when you start speaking higher tones, lower tones, more nasally with different accents, people are like, wow, this isn't just a singular world populated by vanilla people. No, this is a huge world that is just a smattering of different cultures and ideas and faiths and ambitions, and that is why I love to do voices in a role-playing setting.
That's awesome, man. No, but like I completely agree with you though. For those of you who are nervous about doing this, I want you to understand. I mean, like Rob is totally a legit actor. Okay. I used to do like theater acting and stuff like that when I was younger. But you don't have to be. Like, you don't think that, like, oh, we have, because we, like Mike and Rob and I do voices, or because does voices for his channel, that you have to go into it and do voices. There's no real requirement. Some flavor into your everyday tabletop experience. Challenge yourself. Try it. Like, there's nothing that's going to say, I'm going to fail at this. Because if you're with a group of people who are genuinely your friends and you've gathered together, like, even if on a first chance, if they care enough about you to have you there at that table or have you there at this online, thing, they're not going to judge you. They're not. So feel free to fail and you're fine. Okay. One time I played a barbarian that I wanted to have a very sort of Nigerian prince sort of voice to it. And it was daunting because it's a voice that I don't ever do, but I started to look up actors who I felt could do it. And it was one of the ones that I played for Cody Kopp's. He was doing his campaign world, and it was this barbarian that I played, where he was just completely out of the box from what I normally do as a character. And I don't know if I nailed it, but the thing is, it's like I didn't care because I was having so much fun, even if I didn't nail the voice. So that's my big thing is when you go into it, even if you have this impression of a character or you have this voice that you're not quite sure of, if your fellow players are enjoying you and they it's not so jarring that it's destroying immersion, go for it. Do it,
Oh, completely. One thing that I think everyone should know is that if you can do, let's say, the standard medieval English accent, or what not have you, if you want to go ahead and do it. If you butcher it, you're not butchering it, and this is why. Because sure, maybe on this planet, in this realm of reality, British people sound a certain way, and let me tell you something. When it comes to England, England is a perfect example as to the variety and just like smattering of different accents. You could start in London, you could drive for 40 minutes in one direction and get a different accent, and drive 40 minutes in another direction and get another completely different accent. And then if you finish at one of those points, start there and drive another 40 minutes in any direction, you'll get another accent. Because there is such a diversity of people of living in different areas, and you think of their history, you think of their culture. Now, if you take an English accent, and if it doesn't sound exactly like someone what you're trying to achieve, okay, so maybe it doesn't sound like an English accent, but it sounds like an accent from where your character's from, because only you can talk in the manner that your character will talk in, if that makes sense. Pretty sure it does. But it's also 5:15 in the morning, and I'm still trying to down my 7th cup of coffee. So shut up. But here's the kicker, though, is that regardless of what you want to do with your voice, one of the big things is you can just speak just as you are. Because here's the kicker, is that accents. No, I wanted to drink this. Here's the kicker. Yeah, it's like no.
I gotta do it. Yeah.
Let's take an example.
Okay.
Tim.
Yeah.
Tim
dude.
from Tabletop Terrors. Tim Carney. Tim playing as his character Christoph.
Yeah.
He doesn't speak in a different accent. Doesn't speak any different. Speaks as he normally does.
Yep.
However, the emotion, and because this is you got to think of voice acting is basically two scales, right? So on the one side you have your accent, or your pitch of your voice, your all these other things. But on the other hand, then you have the emotion. How evocative is this character? Is your character stoic? Are they do they emote a lot? What do they do? So when you look at Tim, when he plays Christoph, he just brings out this beautiful amount of emotion, and either he's happy, or when he in session 2, he was when he was very upset. These are beautiful moments. So again, it's not just about your voice, the voice itself, but it's the emotion and the experience and what you kind of push out of this character. And that is, of course, a big part of when you want to get into actual voice acting. Now, keep in mind, I am not a professional voice actor, so you take what I say with a big old rock of salt.
A grain of salt.
Oh no, it's not even a grain anymore. It's like a stone.
A stone.
Oh yeah, you can put that in a slingshot. It takes
just a boulder, of lies. Okay, so I guess here's the next question that I'll ask. Based on all the stuff we've just talked about, what has been your favorite character voice that you've ever tried, and why?
Okay, wow. That's a good one. Now I know a lot of people be like, oh, he's gonna say Edric. And Edric is tons of fun. I love playing him. He is he's the kind of character where, you can kind of see a lot of reality in him. One character I did have a huge amount of fun playing was actually just for a one shot. I love playing this guy, and it was for Jacob Norman, Mini Terrain Domain. He ran a Copper Jackals one shot, and I absolutely loved it. I was playing a barbarian. He was like level 14. He was just, he was powerful, and his name was Evan Dur Tall Stag, and I loved doing that voice, because it's just this like it was a tough thing for me, because I wanted to try, the more Scandinavian accent, but without going silly, without being
fully Scandinavian. Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Really over the top. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're sitting on an Allen key or something, like, don't mind me, I just came from IKEA.
I need to buy furniture for my home.
Yeah. But that's the kicker. That was something that was, I wanted to make kind of focus it, but I just had a lot of fun. If it probably at some point ended up sounding silly, sounding stereotypical, but at the same time, I still had a blast, because it was a new accent. It was something that I wanted to try. So that was definitely a huge, I really love that character. But I mean, I've played quite a few. One of the first characters I ever played was a White Dragonborn. It was for the Jarl DM Lloyd, Lloyd's one shot. He was actually nice enough he gave me my first chance on the OSG when I started with that. And Lloyd is just a prince. If you've never played in one of Lloyd's games, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go on there. As soon as he starts something,
Lloyd is a champ.
Oh, he is. He is. Last year for BrigadeCon, he was in virtually every single game.
He'll stay up 24 hours to play with like he will do a 24-hour gaming marathon on a daily basis if he has the ability to.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this guy absolutely. He's also in my Numenera Ascension game, which I mean, I'm not going to plug myself, but it is.
Plug yourself. You're fine. Oh, it's good.
No, it's for charity.
We're plugging charity, so it's all BrigadeCon.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the most important thing. Not about my channel. If you're not subscribed to me, don't even worry about it. Focus right now. BrigadeCon. Donate. Or I will stare at this camera, and you'll stare at my ugly mug for like the next 2 hours and 42 minutes. That's right.
2 hours and 42 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, give or take.
So, yeah, man. As far as my favorite character voice that I've ever tried, so I've got a couple that are in my bag. One would be the current one that I'm doing for the Lore Keepers. Taxes the Dragonborn, man. Like I got to tell you, when I went into doing the Dragonborn, I didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to be too Benedict Cumberbatch, but I didn't want, like, I wanted to have my own style and my own thing. So the first piece of advice I can give to people when you're trying to craft a voice for something, and this is a good thing. First of all, start with a base, right? Like I knew I wanted it to be a dragon. So what are the most recognizable dragon voices that are currently out there that I can like watch on TV or movies? Smog. And then like, if you go far enough back, Dragonheart with like Sean Connery, you could totally do that. But I didn't want it to be like too much that. So I started to think about the character. So analyze your character sheet. That can be one of the things before you even start a voice. Look at your character sheet and say, what do I have on that character sheet? What do I have that is available to me? And then what is that, like all of his beliefs and personalities and all those things, what is it telling me that this character is? Because deep down, I started reading him and I was like, oh, hey, here's some personality traits. Here's some things. and then what kind of actor or what kind of movies have I seen that like I can attribute that voice to? So I started looking up and I was like, oh, hey, Jeff Bridges is pretty much an awesome person. And he plays in True Grit. And I love his character of, I think it's Cosburn in, the sheriff in True Grit. And I love his accent in that. So it started out with me doing like just guttural growls in my mirror to get like the dragon stance, and then eventually you start adding in the Jeff Bridges and the angriness, and you just sort of form yourself into a dragonborn with a southern accent.
What? And why not?
Why not, right?
Because yeah, you can come from everywhere.
Yeah.
I will say this: I actually am a big fan of Benedict Cumberbatch's kind of style, and the reason why is because I thought it was very interesting how he went into the biology of like lizards and other, like, all the, basically reptiles in general. And he's like, well, they don't have lips, and I'm like, damn, that's so simple, it's genius. And then he and he gets that, and he talks through his teeth and everything. Yeah, exactly, talking through his teeth and using his tongue against his teeth to form voices. And I thought, what, if I have a dragon, I'm going
is your ending.
Exactly. But he does it so well. So I'm like, what, if I have if I do a dragonborn, or if I do a dragon, I think that's probably where I'm gonna go in that direction, because I love it, because dragons, and this is like kind of guttural, and it's bestial, but it's like, if it's bestial in such a way that when you bring this kind of this hyper intelligence to an animal, it's still that this primeval kind of. And I can imagine like dragonborn being the same when Crore happens. When it's my turn to play in the Crore game, I am totally excited. I'm playing as a dragonborn.
Oh, awesome! And I didn't even know dragonborn were on Crore, so that's like a sneak peek.
Yeah, they are.
You probably just did a non-disclosure agreement, and you may be kicked out of that game now.
Maybe. But yeah, no, and then I've been thinking about it myself, and this guy, who's this character? So I'm thinking, okay, this guy is like cynical. He's he's a jerk. He's kind of like if you took, if you kind of took like the guy from what's that movie? No Country for Old Men.
Javier Bardem's character.
Javier Bardem's character, but you took about 40% of the sociopath out of him.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome.
It's like, although he's he's a bad person who kills without remorse, he's not like completely lock this man up in somewhere important, and then bringing that that kind of like Smaug sort of voice, so I just think to myself, okay, so yes, what? Let me ask you something. In Crore, what is the most important and powerful thing? It is not a sword. It is not any sort of powerful mage. The most powerful thing you are standing on, it is sand. Sand indoors, where you are laying on it with a belly full of water or a belly full of steel. This indoors, because I'm trying not to use my lips, right? I'm just trying to kind of go from the back of the teeth, and then use inflections for your tongue off your teeth. And my suggestion to anyone doing it is just look at the online. I think there's a plethora of resources, and some of it comes from like SAG-AFTRA, which is the voice actors and actors union. There's a lot of books that have been put out by some top-notch people in the field, and you know what? Take it. Matter of fact, one of my favorite, and it's actually coming up at I think 11 a.m. Eastern. Roll Up and Die. If you're not checking out that podcast, do check it out. Die. Exactly. Yep. One thing that they do is ideas you can steal.
Yeah.
And which is interestingly enough, the title of said event that you should go check out, but not now because we want you to stick around.
Yeah, I'd like that. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, that big thing, ideas you can steal. There are voice actors all over the place, and there are really good voice actors. They have ideas about how they do voices. Take them.
Yeah,
take them, because you're not trying to make money off of like intellectual property or anything else like that. Like with Benedict Cumberbatch, he did an amazing job. Well, you know what? I'm going to take that. Because hell, like I'm running with it because that was brilliant, and let's go for it. Yeah. But you don't necessarily have to.
For me, what I did for taxes is there's a breathy whisper that I do with his, because I do use my lips for certain things. But the way that I interpreted it was that with a sort of dragon snout, even though you don't really have lips, there is sort of a like an overbite or an overhang of the top jaw to the bottom jaw, right? And so you do sort of have a lip level, but the way that he talks and the way he breathes is there's a like that underlying guttural sense. And what I do is I flick my tongue when I'm talking in certain phrases, and it gives that like vibrato whisper to the back of his throat, right? So certain things, like when I breathe in, right, for every other, it's sort of that like breathe in and wiggle your tongue to get that oxygen back. That gives that really creepy, weird, dragonish, like lizard tongue vibe. And I love that. So I'm going to move things forward a little bit. Yeah. So I think we've covered a little bit about how we would give advice to nervous players going into it. I think we've done that a little bit. So I think we're going to skip through that.
Yeah, well, we've done a little bit, but one thing I do want to say is that the only person that can do fun in a role-playing game is you yourself.
Yeah.
Which is which I can't stress enough. Like, you've watched, like amazing, incredible role players like Chad and Barker, and Matt and Tim and Nate and James and there are and Andrew Knapp. Okay,
Andrew Knapp.
You guys have not watched him play or have not got into go into one of his games, because he is amazing. Phenomenal GM, phenomenal player. The list can go on at how many incredible. There's tons of great role players out there, and you know what? They do fun their way. If you're working as a team, you're coming together and collaborative storytelling as a group, you're having fun. Do you have to throw accents in there? Of course not. Do you have to do voices in there? No, you don't have to do voices in there. As long as you're having a good time. Yeah, when you want to learn and you want to try it out, and you feel nervous about it, don't.
Yeah.
And I know that's just like, okay, well, that's kind of a cop out. Like, just don't.
I guess here's two pieces of advice I can give to nervous players right now. Okay, one, go out to obviously we in this OSG and in this community we have formed friendships and we have formed bonds with numerous amounts of people. So I've formed bonds with you and Rob and Tim and James and everything. I think if you're going to test a voice, right, you want to test a voice before you actually perform it on a bigger scale. Do what we're doing right now. Like, I'd hit Mike up for a hangout and be like, hey man, I got an idea for a voice. Do you mind if I run it by you? And then like we can go ahead and kind of do that. I did that with Harry for when Harry was doing the Dragonborn for your game. We sat down and I kind of gave him some ideas for how do you go about performing the Dragonborn and how he would kind of fit into your world. And that was super cool. What I would also suggest is a thing called mirror monologues. I do this all the time for every character I do. Go into your bathroom, stare at yourself in front of a mirror. You don't have to necessarily be in a bathroom, but any place that has a mirror. Stare at yourself in front of a mirror and do a monologue or a piece of what you think, a scenario you think your character might go through, and perform it in front of a mirror. Then you'll get to see the facial inflections, you'll get to see all these things, and you'll get to really identify with the character before you actually hit the stage or, you know, online or however it is, whatever you're doing, whether it be tabletop gaming, whether it be whatever. I think that that's a vital thing you kind of have to do is you personally have to get over the fear of seeing your face or hearing your voice. And once you get over that on a one-on-one basis, now you don't have any fear. One of the things Matt used to tell me is, dude, no shame. Like, just, you got to completely shell yourself out and have no shame to just doing and going hard for it. I remember the first time I ever DM'd, right? Like, this is going to be a little tangent, but the first time I ever DM'd, I wanted to do a really recognizable villain for my campaign world. We were running a Spelljammer campaign, and it was super awesome. And in the Spelljammer campaign, there were elves that were trying to basically acquire all of the arcane magic users and use them sort of as vessels to house this floating city of elves, right? Like, it was super awesome. And one of the characters that I came up with, and this will be awesome for you, Lionel, because I know you asked about German accents. So I came up with a villain named Wilhelm Soldusk. And one of the first people that came to mind when I thought of this was Christoph Waltz. I love him in so many wonderful movies and so many wonderful things. So I eventually started to work my way through most of his movies. Eventually, it ended up being where I started to watch the Inglourious Bastards, and I actually included a sequence from Inglourious Bastards in the actual game, where my players came to this hut, and Wilhelm was sitting in a chair. He was already there with like a brute, and like he was just like, "Oh, hello! It is very nice to meet you. I'm so excited. Would you please sit down? I have tea ready for you. I want you to understand that you have about 2 minutes before my large friend here decides to rip your face apart. You only have that long to tell me what I need to know, or I burn your hut to the ground." It was one of those fun things, man.
That was beautiful. He's
one of my favorite German characters. So like, if you want to learn how to do German accents, like, legitimately, like Mike was saying, take it from people who, like, that's pretty much the only accent they use for every movie that they do.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, I spent some time in Germany, and now I was in southern Germany, in the Bavaria region. And anyone in chat, yes, the beer was tasty there. Anyway, in one thing that I found is that, you know, listen to, like, very few people spoke English. But those that did, you know, like, I would just listen to the way they spoke, mostly because I was trying to understand what they were saying. And, you know, you begin to pick up on their style of accent, you know, where one of the best actually ways to do it is to listen to an alphabet done in a language. And in the German alphabet, you have way, which is V, and W, which is W. And in that, when they do pronounce their V's as W's and their W's as V. So it's just a simple switch. So when they are talking, you can tell when they actually speak and you can do that. You could think about like, okay, well, when someone talks, like if you're doing French, for example, and depending on what type of French accent, you can go high, you can go low. If it's like a low accent, I tend to lean more towards, and because I'm from Canada, I tend to lean more towards Quebec, because Quebec is very it's very rough. It's one of the roughest French, both in French language and in their accents. Hey man, me and the boys, we're going down to the Dep, which is like a store over out there. We're going down to the store, picking up the 6-pack of beer, and so it's very rough. It's very guttural. It's very much the same as Afrikaans versus Dutch, both essentially the same language, but Afrikaans uses it's very broken up and it uses different words. You listen to what they say, and sometimes you can, if like small bits of the language or the accent that you're mimicking or performing, you can add it in there, like me, the boys, or if you're maybe doing it like in a more high French accent, yes, it is very nice to meet you. My name is Jean Lacroix. I hope that you have a very pleasant time here. And if there is anything, quelque chose. If there's anything that I can do for you, please let me know, and I will be more than happy to help you. Bientôt, using little bits, and now that right there, that actually doesn't not only shows you that there are almost two classes of people. So you have this rough, guttural, common man kind of accent or voice, and then you have a high, maybe noble, patrician, which is a merchant. Not everyone knows patrician, but patricians are like high merchants, wealthy people, an upper echelon or an upper class. That's another way you can do it. It would be very much the same in English.
I love that.
Yeah, it would be very much the same in English between like received pronunciation, which is like the standard British accent, received pronunciation is also known as the Queen's English. It is very proper, and every syllable is precisely, and I do mean precisely, dictated. And exactly. Yep. And then from received pronunciation to something like Londoner. It's not Cockney, because I'm getting real tired of people saying it's like Cockney, but I mean Londoner. You think of people like Michael Caine, or other people like that, right? These people like that,
Tom Hardy is one of the ones that I go to for that. Yep.
Jason Statham to a bit of a lesser degree. All these people are like, that would be considered the kind of common folk. While received pronunciation, or even I think there's also another one above that, it's like posh or something they call it. That is. That can really create a diversity in your city, especially if you're doing the same. Like you don't want to do the same accent, because you don't want to try and sound the same, but at the same time, you can split that up. So you say, okay, there are classes of people here, and players pick up on that, people pick up on that, and they say,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's very interesting.
I love that. I think as far Lionel asked about the German accents, so that's why I threw that out there. Lionel, if you really want to learn German accents, dude, The best thing I can say is exactly what Mike said. Learn, like, take an opportunity to just sit down, go to YouTube. I'm sure they have it, where you just listen to an alphabet being listed off. And once you understand the vowel sounds and the consonant breaks on how they actually make their words and phrases and how they portray what they are going to say, or even the pauses or how they work their voices, you eventually will get to the point where your accent attributes to normal everyday. So for me right now, this is sort of English, right? And probably better German English than what, like someone who's just learning English, like a German person who's just learning English is not going to have the precision of someone who has, who yeah, they're not going to have the precision that they do. So you got to think about that too.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. There's no sense. There's no sense in like kind of just, don't push yourself either. Don't, kind of like try and force feed an accent out your mouth, because, it takes time. It totally takes time.
Yeah.
I had the same issue, I think, playing one character. I started with one accent and it kind of shifted to another. And well, you know what, that's fine, because you got to settle. You got to settle on who your character is going to be, right? And that's why, again, always write out the top of the character sheet. Who are you? 3 simple words. Well, actually, I guess a word, a preposition, and a. You know what? I'm not going to bother with that. But anyway, those three little things right there can say, hey, you know what? Yeah, who is this character? And you begin to delve in, you begin to dive in to how deep your character goes, as far as, who they are and what they've done, how they act. And then you start to, like, when you're sitting there and you're listening to to the other players, they're doing their thing, you start to think to yourself, well, you know what? Maybe if my character is there or not, how would my character react to that? What do I think about that? As my character, as me, or person I'm playing, how is that going to work? And then you can start to, it's all it basically just snowballs out of control into this this okay, I know who I am, I know who my character is. And it's definitely a great experience in that.
I agree, man. Okay, so I think for about 5 or so minutes, you want to take a break for a minute, and then what we'll do is we'll come back. I've got a couple more questions, and then we're going to go into the scenario and faction stuff, where we actually start building some NPCs from scratch, and you guys get to hear us butcher voices for about, for the last half of this, okay?
Sounds good. I'll definitely. I got to grab some more coffee, because I'm almost awake, but I'm just not quite there yet.
Not quite, yeah.
I'm getting there. It's but for sure. So I guess see you.
Sounds good. All right. While we're in the mid break, I do want to make a moment to say that this is all for a excellent charity, one that is very near and dear to my heart. When I was 3 years old, I got flown out here to Seattle Children's Hospital before I even moved out here. I was in ICU units, and I was going through tons and tons of surgeries at the time. Guys, it is extremely important, not only to the kids, but to the parents and the families, and just getting some sort of hope. That's exactly what you're giving. You're not giving toys. You're not giving, game systems. You're not giving these things. You're giving a sense of hope to children, and a sense of stability to them, where they don't have that right now in their lives. So don't think of your donation as a means of just giving toys or just giving something else. What you are giving to them might be physically a teddy bear, but you're giving hope to those kids. So I just want everybody to know that as you go forth, please, throughout the day, whether it's here, whether it's 5 hours from now, whenever you do it, BrigadeCon is like the most important thing that we're doing today. So thank you guys so much. Mike, thank you so much for sticking around and being here and learning with me, man.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I've got a carafe full of coffee, and I mean, I love voices. I love accents. I love talking about it. I love delving into it. You know, the science behind it and everything else. I'm so happy to be here. You're a wonderful person, Chad. So hey, you know what? It is worth waking up early for, buddy.
Hey, man, thank you so much. Like, I didn't even know what to expect with this thing, but it's been awesome. You go take your break. I'm going to be sitting here. I'm 100% fine. I'm going to go ahead and answer some more questions while you're gone.
Sure.
And then we'll get to getting. So my buddy Jeremy Lilly asked me this question prior to last night, before I went to bed for 4.5 hours. He asked me, how do you maintain consistency, especially among other players using different accents? So while Mike's gone, I'll go ahead and answer that for you, Jeremy, and then I'll ask him when he gets back. But for me, I know that can be hard because everybody's throwing around other accents, and especially it falls very difficult for someone who's not used to doing accents when a bunch of other people in the room are doing British and you decide to do Russian. That can really throw a kink in your craw. So I would say this: understand your character. Like we've been saying throughout the beginning of this morning, understanding your character is really vital importance. Once you start to really get the character and you've been doing that voice in repetition, like practice it in repetition. Because once you start doing that voice in a sort of long-term scheme, you won't be able to break it. It becomes habitual and something that you're used to. So make it something that you're used to. Make it like a morning coffee ritual, right? Where you wake up in the morning, you get your coffee, you practice a voice, etc., etc., etc. And eventually you'll start to break yourself away from knowing that, like, okay, cool, if I have a group full of people who want to do British accents or who want to do like Scottish accents, because that's pretty much the norm for D&D tables, and I want to come in with, say, I don't know, I want to come into the group with a sort of other accent, like a Southern accent, right? If I want to somehow end up being a Southern charmer, end up going into something like a Matthew McConaughey, and then all of a sudden now people are really starting to look at me like, who the hell is this guy? Why is he here amongst all the other people? Why is he the one I need to look at? You know, why is he the one I need to look for? I don't understand. And deep down, you'll start to really, like, if you practice those on a given basis, like I have a stable of voices that I go to, that are my go-tos, that, like, if someone were to ask me to do them, I could lock in and just go and improv from that. Not everybody's going to have that, but what I would highly recommend is to maintain consistency. Practice makes perfect. And so if you're worried about that at all, just do small practice things. Do small little practice skits, small practice monologues throughout the day, whether it's you driving in your car or whether you're doing it during breakfast. I know it sounds kind of embarrassing because you're, you know, I'm doing it in front of no one, and I'm talking to myself at breakfast, or I'm doing something in the car and people look at me weird. But again, just shut everything else out and do it, because that's the only way that you advance and get better. I think is you practice is going to make perfect. You're gonna find that if you try to make, say, Russian, right? You try to make a Russian villain slowly but surely. If you continue to do voice over and over again and again and again, that you will eventually amass yourself and immerse yourself into voice. Voice will become you, right? Voice will eventually be here all the time, and you will be able to do so. So, for you, Jeremy, I don't know how you necessarily. I know you're doing the White Lotus games, and I think that's awesome. And I don't know how you portray like that Chinese dynasty era in your voice acting. That would be daunting for me to begin with. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't do that at home. But if you ever want to, you ever want to try to, I'm not going to fault you for it. I don't even know where to begin on that one. So I love you, buddy. I wish I could help you with that Chinese Ming Dynasty sort of accent level. But I'm not there. I really don't know where to begin on that accent table. But that is my interpretation of how to maintain consistency. It's literally just practice. Pull yourself together, make little 5 to 10 minute blocks of just playing around with the voice, play around with the voice. And if there's something that you want to learn, watch it. If there's something you want to learn, watch it. One of the things that I always did as a kid was I watched a lot of cartoons. I watched a lot of TV shows, and voices came to me because I would listen to a voice repeatedly, and then eventually you would understand, oh, hey, that's how you do that voice, or hey, that's how you do this voice. So it's all about repetition and like listening to inflections, because once you master those inflections, you're done. You're in. You're going to be locked in, and you're going to maintain that consistency no matter if you're doing it for a party, or if you're doing it for D&D, or if you're just doing it because you're talking to yourself at work and you're bored and lonely.
Yeah, that does tend to happen.
Okay, but, so Mike, yeah. So while you were away, I was answering the consistency question from Jeremy. And so I guess I will throw that to you, my friend. What do you think is a great way to maintain consistency of a voice? Because his big thing was, if there's a bunch of people around the table and they're all throwing out like a bunch of different voices, but most of them probably like standard Brit Scott voices, you know, how do I manage to maintain my Russian accent amongst all other people's playing their little baby games?
You know what? That's actually that's a fantastic question. So my thing about that is, okay, one, in a world that you're playing in, it's cosmopolitan. There are many different accents, many different people from all walks of life, from all different places, who have different accents and different voices, and so in that regard. Now, maintaining consistency for yourself, just like focusing primarily on your character. For example, I did this beautiful one shot that was run by Stereotypical Strider. The Bold and the Beautiful Stereotypical Strider, because I don't want to, you gotta add that in. You really
Marquise. Dude, if you're probably sleeping right now.
Smart.
But Broham, you're awesome. I just want to throw that out there. Marquise is one of our dear friends, and he's just the dopest human being I've ever met. And he ran a Babylon game. I don't know if you watched that with the Babylon game
that was beautiful.
Barker and I were in. Like, that thing was nuts.
Yeah, you guys totally got your butts handed to you.
And you know what? He asked me prior to the game. He was like, "I need help with the Babylon accent." I was like, "I have no idea where to begin with that." But I basically was like, "Well, we could do Turkish or Persian," and like we were practicing Turkish and Persian accents together. I was kind of giving him some hints there, and he nailed that sucker. So if you haven't seen it, I don't remember the name of the game, but go to his channel and check it out, because
it was something of the heavens, I think.
Yeah. I think it's like I think it's Bull of the Heavens or something, because there was it is by far, and it's by far one of the best intros to a game I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
Go check that out when you get an opportunity.
Oh, definitely. When I was playing in one of Marquise's one shots, it was a Dragon Grin one shot with Tim and James. And okay, so who the fourth person that was in that, I'm feeling like a big jerk right now. And if you ever want to internet slap me down, I deserve it right now, because the fourth person's name just escapes me, because it's 6 a.m. and I've been up since 4 a.m. So bear with me. But I was playing as Grigor, this cleric, and he was so exuberant and excited because he had never been anywhere past this beautiful sanctuary that he was in, and to be in such a place, it was amazing. Now, Tim and James were doing like this kind of like, they were playing brothers, but they were doing this kind of like funny Bronx, New York kind of an accent. And what I did was I just focused purely on, and I also practiced. That was another thing I did as well. And again, this mirrors, what Chad was saying about his mirror, the mirror kind of trick where, you start talking as your character. I would do the same thing. I'd practice and I'd sit there and like, okay, well, what would he say? How would he act? What would he do? And that kind of helped me just kind of like to slide right into it. And I was able to just keep it. Now, granted, I mean, it takes practice. I was kind of a drama kid, and I kind of did stuff, I did stuff in school. So, I kind of like, you learn how to focus yourself on maintaining character and maintaining, so I mean, that's something that you can't just, pick up just like that and just carry on. It'll take a little bit, but as far as maintaining or keeping your consistency, as long as you say, okay, the other players are around and I'm taking in all their information and socializing with them, socialize a lot. Like while you're in playing the game, socialize between your character and their character, and just keep on the, if I'm playing, so let's say just a standard, let's say I'm playing, playing a dwarf, right? You just want to go to like do a Scottish accent or something, and it's like, well, what do you think about this? I mean, I don't, I don't know what these bandits are up to, but come on, let's hit it, and they'll start talking,
so like, let's give them an example, I guess, because if you're going to go Scott, then I'll just go something completely opposite of that and do either a German or a Russian accent. And then that way they can see, like, you can continue your consistency of that voice, even when you're throwing it back and forth. Right. So in that situation right there, you're asking me a lot of things. And so I would probably be like, don't you understand, little dwarf? There are so many things
that you dwarves do not understand about our heritage. Elves have been here for years, and you dare to tell me that you do not know your own tunnels. I know your tunnels better than you do.
Bah, bloody elves. Look at you, you damn dagger ears. Think that just because you live long enough that it's all right to look down on the rest of us. Well, let me tell you something. A battle axe will gladly bring you down to my height, and then I can talk to you face to face.
I'd love to see you try, little man. Before you get there, how about bow goes through eye socket? Huh?
A bow. Sure. If you're a coward and you want to stand far away from your enemy, not meet them face to face with honor. Of course, at that note, the GM would probably say, and roll initiative.
And hey, PvP is just about to happen.
But you know, like, having these little like back and forths. I mean, it doesn't have to be threatening. You know, it could also be like, you know, well, you know, you make a very good point. I mean, you know, what do you think about this? You know, and you know, like, because obviously it's collaborative and everyone's you know, together. So I mean, you know, that's more taking more of an aggressive stance. If you know, maybe you're
elves versus dwarves fighting.
Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, like that's really what it breaks down to is learning your voice, so that you can kind of maintain some sort of consistency, and then if you break consistency, don't bother. Like, it's okay. You can get back into it. It's like riding a bicycle. Once you've practiced enough a little bit, if you fall off the wagon, you can get right back on the wagon. It just takes a second, you know, like. Oh God! I know I'm switching into British, and I don't know if things are going to happen. Is this a question from you, Mike? Or is
no, this is a question from Mr. Flandorn, the Sapphire Mage.
Oh, hey, okay.
Very great questions in chat.
Dude, I love this. I love this question. Okay, so it says, do you ever use physical cues to prompt the practiced memory? A scrunchy face for an old woman or wide eyes of an innocent youth, or does it mix things up in your mind? You know what? I will start out this question by saying yes. Like, and yes to using physical cues. So what I do a lot of time, my face, I pretty much consider like Gumby. And I kid you not, like this, I practiced early on when I was doing drama classes. I actually did acting classes for about 2.5 years. And we did improv, and I learned all this kind of cool things about that. But what I've learned is practicing facial cues is fantastic. So when you do an old man, right? Primarily any old man voice that I'm going to do, or an old lady voice or whatever, you're going to scrunch up the top of your brow and you're going to squint. Primarily for me, I always do that just to sort of get myself into the mindset. And then it's a matter of just becoming part of their anger and saying things like, you know, one of those days, one of those whippersnappers is going to find a damned dragon, and they're going to end up getting eaten. Do you remember when our daughter told us we were going to be eaten by dragons? Now look at her. She's off, and she's been eaten by a dragon. I told you, Margaret, I told you that she should never have left, ever.
So, point to note to those watching: every old man has a wife named Margaret.
Yep, every old man has a wife named Margaret, or some sort of like old English name. It's got to be like an old English, like, do you remember Catherine Sue, that we used to make stews in the upper quarters of our inn? I remember it fondly.
Deidre, where are my glasses? I cannot find them at all.
Yeah, man.
And you know what? And it's funny because I in my mind, yes, I cannot agree more with you on this one, Flandor. I love to use facial cues. And to me, the reason why it's like because I like using a wide variety of characters and voices. What I like to do is I like to compartmentalize each NPC in this floating, dusty, cobweb-strewn brain holder. And what I do is I'll think about a certain facial cue. Like I'll think about a certain like little part, and I'll add that. I'll make sure I jump into that. So when I did the Convocation one shot, I played the Burgermeister, the mayor of this town. He was this old, kind of a man, and I wouldn't necessarily scrunch up my face, but when it came to do it, he was very much a yes, and I pursed my lips a little bit, because he has a bit of a speech impediment, or he forgets things and he tries to, he's got so much on his mind, and then I just would kind of like roll with that.
Oh yeah, dude. Okay, so that brings a great point. Quirks, dude. Like, okay, one of the things that I love doing and I love giving to my characters is quirks. And you can give vocal quirks to your characters. And it doesn't have to be a stutter, doesn't have to be anything. But like, let's say, for instance, I'll go the route of a bandit, right? And I'm a bandit who got captured. And I've had my throat like either slashed or I've been on a noose, right? Afterwards, my voice is going to be so raspy if I survive, because either now I've got this really ridiculously lacerated neck that's now just healed over, or I've got this really gnarly like noose burn on my neck that will always be there. And so if you start thinking like that, then you're thinking, okay, well, now that's a really interesting quirk I can now take to the voice and make it
where his throat and his trachea might have been, thrown apart. And eventually you start talking a little like this. Hello there, Snobby. How are you?
Exactly. I had the same thing for one of my character, an NPC, for the Fiasco on the Silver Dragon Express game. And he was a half orc, and he'd been, beaten quite severely, and he had his throat kind of slashed, and he was known as Whisper. So instead of like, I basically, for the small amount of dialogue before I think he was promptly killed by one of the snowboarding yetis. Yeah, I know, right? So that's why you probably got to watch this. Probably should watch that game. He did kind of like, his voice was again extremely raspy, and I basically did it to, just kind of a whisper, because that was his name, was Whisper. Because, again, when your throat's been cut, or if you've been like, if your trachea has been like damaged in some way, or your vocal cords, of course it's going to be, you're going to have trouble speaking. And, a lisp, a like stutter, things like that, even if, you have a hard time to say certain things, putting that in there can really create a level of depth into an NPC that a lot of people would just overlook. Like, no, everyone speaks, grammatically correct in my world. And maybe they do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you start putting in certain quirks and flaws, things start becoming more, I don't want to say more real, but, it starts making more sense logically, because not everyone speaks perfect English or perfect French or whatnot have you.
Yeah, perfectly, man. Like, I completely agree. One of the things that I remember Matt did for our Spelljammer campaign is he had this orc named Sarkum Silversmite, but he gave Sarkum a like Mike Tyson-esque accent. So his name was Sock'em Silversmite, and he used to fight wonderful, wonderful villains all the time with his silver sword. And it was just this crazy thing that we used to talk about.
I couldn't do it. I'd be like, hey, we have to kill that NPC because I can't do it.
No, Sock'em was an NPC. Sock'em was a player character. He was Matt's player character, and Matt's player character was this crazy ass half-orc. There was just this giant half-orc paladin that had this silver armor and the silver sword, and he was, I'm gonna kill everything, you know. And obviously, I'm butchering that, but that was good. I like that. He was a super wonderful paladin. It was the greatest. So, all right, let's move on to finally doing some actual scenarios and NPCs. I think that'd be the cool thing.
Oh, I think that'd be great.
If anybody else throughout the stream has questions, we're gonna check the chat. I will completely stop to answer questions anytime throughout this. But one of the things that I'm going to give out to players to please go try and pick up, I think this is a valuable and wonderful resource. Obviously this is backwards, the writing on it's backwards, but it's the Writer's Idea Thesaurus, right? Like, or at least for me, it's backwards. But the Writer's Idea Thesaurus is a exceptional book for things like just building worlds, crafting things. It has about 20 chapters. Each chapter is divided up into, like it'll give a sentence of so-and-so. So, like the one that we're going to be doing today is the invasion of X, right? And then you talk about, it goes down the pipe. I also have another book that I'm going to recommend to folks. Give me 1 second. I got to grab it.
Yeah. In the meantime, please donate to BrigadeCon. Donate to Child's Play.
I thought I had it at my station, but I don't.
That was it. That was my plug.
Donate. Okay. What? Donate. Hit the donate button.
You beat that donate button with a warhammer, with a blaster, carve it up with a lightsaber, do whatever you do.
If you don't, we will send people to your homes.
We know people. We know a lot of passive-aggressive people. They will sit on your lawn and they will annoy the shit out of you. Sorry for the language here.
I have a very specific set of skills. I will find you and I will kill you. If you don't.
My specific set of skills is to sit down and to make you feel really terrible about yourself. Terrible about yourself all day.
We will sit in a chair and I will give you wet willies for 14 hours.
I couldn't even do it.
Couldn't do it.
I broke a smile. I can't do it. Like, Liam Neeson is so good. And then you say something like, just out off the box, like wet willies, and you're just like, nope. Broke. But the other book that I'm going to recommend to people to please go out and pick up. I wish I had other copies that I could actually give away as giveaways for this, but it's the Writer's Guide to Character Traits. Now, I know Barker has this really cool thing coming up later today about, I think he's doing another panel on character psychology this year. This thing, 100% valuable in terms of that. It goes through everything, every detail of psychosis and things. So if you want your character, for instance, to have certain phobias are excellent. There's phobias in this thing that you can be like, oh, I want a character that happens to have trichotillomania, which is like pulling your hair out. I want to be able to have it like, I want to be able to have them. That's stuff like that's in here, right? Like little tips and tricks and traits and stuff that are phenomenal. In this book. It's so good. And it even goes through like how to do like parenting. Like there's a whole book on creating a family, like how to develop a family and like parenting skills, all these things, and how each one of them affects your personality. So that's really cool. So if you want a book on personalities and how to really build NPCs in depth, I would definitely recommend it. It's called The Writer's Guide to Character Traits. Definitely pick that one up. Now, moving on to the Writer's Idea Thesaurus. So the one that I've got it already written down. So we're going to go ahead and hop into that. Here we go. Oh, yep. Yeah, man.
Sorry, I'm writing down the title of that book because that is actually extremely interesting.
Christopher, one of the things is I just saw was Harry saying he wants to try to replicate Christopher Lee.
I thought it was a question about the beard.
No, he did have a question for my beard. As for that, I do have an answer for that. The beard choice, I'm gonna unfortunately have to shave again, but the beard choice was because of the fact that I am doing cosplays this year for Emerald City, and I'm going to be doing a lot of like prosthetic makeup work and stuff. And so I had to make myself a full-on face cast. So I had to put plaster on my face, right? And then pull the plaster off, and I can't have facial hair here. Otherwise you get that like
I think you really, well, not only that, you really just don't want to have facial hair because I don't know how bad it is, but I imagine that would hurt trying to pull off a plaster cast.
Yeah. Oh no, it does. Because I have friends that like unless you put Vaseline, like dip your head in Vaseline while you're doing this, all of your hair will eventually be ripped off of your face. Like it would be like me just going. I'd look like the Joker from New 52. I'd just be like that ripped off face with like staples. Just.
Yeah, that would not be good.
Yeah, no. Okay. So here is the premise for our beginning scenario.
Sorry. There's a question from Nicholas, and if I butcher your name, Nicholas Jacquet or Jacquet, if I just butchered your name, please forgive me. This is a phenomenal question. It is.
Ooh, yeah.
How about when you have to do a female character? And I'm so happy that you brought that up, Nicholas. Thank you so much. And the reason why I say this is because, now this is more for men than for women. Obviously, for women playing a female character, that's
simple. That's simple talk.
It's I mean, when you play a male character, or when you play a male character, it's you just speak how you speak and with accents and everything else. When you play a female character, so here's the thing. I'm just borrowing from the carnies there. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Your vocal cords are a muscle, just like your biceps or anything else, right? Now, those vocal cords, you can, with practice, tighten them or loosen them. So here's one thing, and here's and I don't want to tell people what to do or what not to do, but here's what not to do. Never do a falsetto. Now, falsetto is
make yourself sound like Mickey Mouse, or
exactly.
Copyright. Some sort of Winnie the Pooh sort of individual who always wants to run around and have honey. I don't want that out of there either. No.
Well, that was a metaphor just waiting to be thrown out there, wasn't it? Jeez.
Yeah, no. Hey.
So, playing a female character, like as you I'll use a vocal thing as an example. So when you relax your vocal cords, you can actually go very deep. And as you continue to slowly tighten your vocal cords, you'll find that you're able to speak a little bit higher and a little bit higher and a little bit higher still. When I do women NPCs or something like that, I'll never speak in a falsetto, which is that very artificial kind of heightening of
that
your voice.
cartoony artificial. Hi, everybody! This is the most wonderful place you'll ever be in. Hooray!
Exactly. You make a good Disney princess, by the way. That was good. Now,
I'm working on trying to get a contract.
sorry, that got me. That got me. But the best way to do it is to just work on tightening your vocal cords, loosen and tighten. And when you tighten your vocal cords, you'll find that you kind of feel like a bit restricted, and you'll find you'll be able to get like a couple of, maybe not necessarily, like maybe an octave and a half higher than what your voice actually is. And you'll find that that's good with playing female characters if you wanted to go that route. Now keep in mind, when you tighten your own vocal cords, like by like kind of like just like clenching them, it's very hard on your throat, it's very hard on your vocal cords, and you could have an issue with blowing out. One person who almost always plays a female character when he does gaming is Troy Spencer. Phenomenal guy, just a great human being. He does a lot of stuff on the OSG. He plays in a ton of games. He's wonderful, and his thing is he doesn't even bother. He just speaks how he normally speaks, but he's a female character. He plays a woman, and he doesn't try anything. He doesn't like one thing too. Another thing that I think a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but maybe people who are a bit less mature. And I go, of course, I'm not gonna like shotgun a bunch of insults out to a bunch of people, but sometimes when a less mature person plays a female character or woman, they tend to make them a bit hypersexualized. My suggestion is please don't do that. You just as playing a male character, you're not like uber, completely chock full dripping of testosterone. At the same time, if you're
What you talking about, man? I'm totally dripping with testosterone. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, sorry. Well, well, okay.
Yeah.
But playing a female character, you're not trying to, have sex with every character that you NPC that you come across. You're not trying to flirt with everyone, because I think like obviously there should be like a modicum, not just a modicum, but a big chunk of respect. Depending on how the world that you play in is doled out between women and men. Some people prefer more of a realistic scenario, in their medieval fantasy. Other people, just say, what, screw it. Women and men are equal. Like is like with my homebrew world of Valos, and the Ironhead Chronicles, women and men are equal. Like anyone can serve, anyone can do anything they want to do. People can marry who they want to marry. It's not trying to go the social justice warrior route, but it's just trying to go to a point where it's like, just keep everything the same, and keep a nice even keel, even playing field. And it's the same thing when playing a woman, when voicing a woman. Be mindful, be respectful. If like, what if you're playing with one of your friends, and she does wouldn't appreciate the fact that you're speaking like kind of like almost like stereotypical.
Yeah,
and
the last thing you want to do ever is to present, and you got to think about that. I think also in a broad spectrum thing, not just for female characters or female players, but also for broad spectrum. Don't go to the table with a stereotypical idealism of what any accent or any voice is. Don't bring that to the table as your character, because then you draw that gray line of, am I doing enough? Like, am I doing too much of this to be offensive? And if you are, they're going to call you out on it pretty much immediately, and then just tone it back. Like
definitely, and rightfully so. Actually, Harry just did correct me, and I apologize for that. Vocal cords are actually a membrane. The larynx is the muscle bit. So that my bad. My bad.
Yeah.
And also, Sheila Long in chat also said vice versa, a female doing a male character voice, which I fully agree with you on that one. Yes, women can most certainly, do a very stereotypical male and everything else. The main thing is just to be like, when you want to do voices and characters, that's awesome. But also be mindful of who your who your audience is, and while you're doing the character for yourself, you do have an audience in the other players, or if you're playing online, anyone who is watching, let's say the channel host or the channel's YouTube, and obviously in that regard, you want to be able to just have like just kind of be mindful of that. Like these people, obviously they have a channel, they've worked really hard on it, they've like they're creating games, and the least someone can do is just to be just respectful in that regard. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on, at least on, like males doing females, females doing males. It's have fun, but respect one another.
I think the best example right now that you can go and you can look at in regards to a male portraying a female voice, and not necessarily like he doesn't do a voice, but Barker right now. Barker playing as Holly Rast is hands down how I would want any of my players to play it, how I would want any of my DMs to play it. You don't have to like don't pigeonhole yourself into thinking I have to do a female voice because I'm doing a female NPC. If you can portray that this character is a female and that she is going through, going through this moment or this action without necessarily having to heighten your vocal cords or do anything, but the way you describe it matters. Marquise almost exclusively has played female characters in many games. I know he's playing BB in our Redemption game right now, and he tried to help me. He tried to get some help from me for voices, and I was just like, dude, just go with it, just enjoy it, like do what you're gonna do. And obviously, like at a certain point you go, can I reach that range? If I can't reach that range, then am I just comfortable doing my own voice and understanding that like there is that certain respect level that I have to give to this character because they're female or because they're male, vice versa, depending on who what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And and of course, it also, it's not just between genders. It's also between like races. If you're playing like if you're playing an elf, are you going to be that stereotypical kind of elf? You play your character your way, but at the same time, there are people who will be either your home group, will be listening in, and if you guys don't care and that's your thing, then do it your way. But again, it's and it's even if you looked at the fact that it's just kind of a jerk thing to do to act like it, it's also the if your fellow players, your fellow team members aren't excessively thrilled with how you've been acting or how you've been as a person, chances are when you need healing, that cleric's going to be like, nah, we cool. You can just walk it off. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're good. Go ahead.
And yeah, so that's anyway, that I don't want to delve too much into the kind of social aspect of it, but that's my 2 cents in that regard.
But yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. So let's get into the scenario stuff now that we're like talking about this. So the scenario that I have set up was something that I had both of you guys roll for. and using that writer's idea thesaurus. So I took one scenario from chapter 12 and then one scenario from chapter 8. And it starts out by saying this: people in this city are transformed by rain. Their personalities, thoughts, and even appearances change. There are different factions devoted to rain all over the city, but then something happens. The city experiences a vast monsoon. The rain has gone from being transformative and inspirational to torrential and dangerous. And then the second part of that is bards in this dystopian world are outcasted and considered insane by most. They invade the city that outcasted them and stage a mock trial for the officials that saw them exiled. Alas, they acquire the same sort of attitudes that they once accused their captors of harboring.
Huh.
So what I think we're gonna do then is I would like to think up a few NPCs for this bardic outcast faction, and why would they be this, and how would they go about it. So basically, we're going to give you guys, and no copyright infringement, but an idea you can steal. Okay, guys over at Roll Up and Die, I love you, but this is an idea you can steal for future reference. So what do you think, Mike? I mean, based on just that, knowing that this society or in this city, rain pretty much controls everything.
All right. So what I'm thinking of, okay, if the rain does this to people, so it changes their personalities, it changes their skill sets, as it were. I could see that there are people who go out and maybe they have a big artist district, and artists that are looking for inspiration will go out in the rain. They're called the rain walkers. And it's the guild of artisans, craftsmen, and other people that, do tapestries and paintings, even people who are sculptors and everything else. They're called the rain walkers, and they walk out in the rain, and they're kind of they're a group that is met with both respect and disdain, or it's almost slight ridicule. People think, oh yeah, there goes another rain walker, and they'll walk out and holding, it's almost like a religion to them, walking out and just holding their hands up, kind of begging for inspiration to go out and be kind of healed with these waters, or these kind of inspired by these waters, and almost like a touch of madness to go off. And and you have these maybe rainwalker art is considered to be more powerful because the rain takes something from it, either if it damages your soul, or possibly even begins you on this descent into madness where you feel like you need more rain. So I can imagine some of these great artists that are living in this city, are just a little bit crazy. They got that little touch of the Mad Hatter kind of a thing.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the things when I wrote this up, I immediately thought of, and I don't know if you've played it, but in Dishonored, there's a group of individuals that have been kind of infected by a plague called the Weepers, right? And they weep through their eye sockets with the blood and stuff. And I immediately thought of, if it says that the rain physically transforms them, what if what if these rainwalkers, over time, it's gradual and over time, but over time their very features begin to sort of bleed like the paint that they put onto their canvases. Their very face just starts to droop and slip, and sort of that thing. And so for me, I kind of have an idea already brewing in my head for this this revolter, right? Like this leader of the revolt, the revolution that led to them now doing this mock trial against the officials. And what I want to think is that there's two different classes of people, right? There's two completely different classes. There's the Rainwalkers, and then there's the people like the higher up officials who are afraid of the rain, who know that the rain has those transformative abilities, and they do not want that they carry umbrellas on a regular basis. They're like, you know, like one of the things that they have is like, I ain't touching rain. Heck no. You better have me in a cart. You better like almost to the nobility level, right? Where it's like we are better than the rain.
Oh, definitely. Like almost like, yeah. And I mean, these, you know, they could be, you know, they could be called like, you know, the arid, or, you know, like almost like called the, you know, like the arid society, you know,
the arid society. Yeah.
But the Rainwalkers call them, you know, the dry touched, because, you know,
yeah.
because like an insult or something, because it's like, you know, don't mind them. They're just dry touched.
Oh yeah, dude. I love what you just did there with that voice though too, because
I imagine that if you're going to be a rain walker, your voice and everything you have will now droop to the bottom of
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And doing that in such a way, you know, like, and then, you know, even if it does, like if their skin starts to sag and droop a bit, you know, you look at that and you say, okay, you know what, maybe amongst the nobility, you know, like unmarred, undamaged skin and faces are, you know, are considered a mark of beauty, of attraction, of status. Yeah. Whereas maybe among the common folk, you know, they view Rainwalkers as like, wow, these people are like, you know, sacrificing for their craft. You know, these people are, you know, they're making the ultimate, you know, martyrdom, you know, to like go out in the rain and destroy and disfigure and destroy themselves, even destroy their own minds, in order to create.
Because I think like just being out in the rain for like a little bit of time, based on this, it sounds like just being out in the rain for a small, insignificant amount of time. Like if you're just walking from your house to a market and back, and you happen to get rain on you, I don't think that that's like going to be detrimental to your body. But if it's monsoon, like, good, yeah, you'd be like running from house to house, like, oh God, I got to get away, if you're just a normal common person.
Oh, definitely. Now, I mean, that can also, like, maybe the rain affects your mind first, but then through prolonged effects, then it begins to alter your physical form.
Oh yeah, like first, almost like a stroke. Are you talking about like almost like
almost, but like at first, you know, the rain touching your skin, like getting absorbed into it. So maybe, you know, it hits you, but it immediately soaks into your body. So even though you're getting rained on, you're almost remaining dry, or only just very lightly wet, even though it's coming down like crazy. And you know, people are just all these thoughts, like it's almost like, remember what's that movie with Ryan Reynolds, where he takes that really experimental drug and all of a sudden his mind just like awakens.
Oh, you talking about like Limitless?
That's it.
Okay.
Almost like that. So the rain almost hits you like that, and all of a sudden it's like your whole mind just expands in one moment to open up and just create, or open up and think. You know, if you're an accountant, all of a sudden numbers make so much sense to you, and it basically, people just get hit with these random points of inspiration, much as, you know, rain falls in a random pattern. You know, you just get this all of a sudden, like, whoa, I understand it all now. I completely understand it all now, and you know, and just go. You know, this almost actually like kind of falls into, I can almost see the setting as being some sort of a Victorian kind of world where, you know, art and culture are you know, building up, and craftsmen, you know, people who get hit with this rain just suddenly become more and more like inspired to like either create new technologies or create, new forms of art and new forms of culture, maybe even new forms of politics, like there's so, it's almost like every time it rains, it's like a mini golden age where people just, start shooting ideas and like bringing things. Now, of course, some of it is just like, brushed off as like, okay, he's just rain touched, he's just the man's all wet. That could be just like the
man's all wet. I love that. Like,
yeah,
it's just like the slang term that like
exactly. Like he's got a ton of ideas, but none of it's cohesive.
He's wet between the ears.
There you go. Yep. Exactly. That could have a whole different meaning.
Yeah.
Actually, would you excuse me for just 2 minutes? Carry on. I'll be right back.
No problem.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I think I love the direction that we're going. So I want to do like an NPC that would be obviously like a leader of this group. And I imagine that he's got some sort of a droop to his voice. So he has this lowered jaw, and maybe he has this sense of hatred for those dry folk there in their upper towers. You and your men, they mocked us lane walkers for years. I told you that the rain would make us a golden age, but you denied us, called us insane, quarantined us to a new level of filth and disparity. I shall stand for it no more. And you could also go another route with it, maybe. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the lovely show called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because I was. It was one of my favorite shows as a kid, and I imagine, and this is something I've used for, or what I plan on using, a character voice for Sewers Under Sandwall. From Absolute Tabletop. If you haven't checked that one out, I highly recommend you checking that supplement that they have out. It is phenomenal. But one of the voices that I do for that is Slimy Jack. And then Slimy Jack, for me, was very much like Krang from the Ninja Turtles. He was angry at everyone. Lower self-esteem would only be held by the aging voices of the day. Oh, hey, Mike. How you doing? I'm sitting here being Krang from Ninja Turtles. But yeah, no, like I really think that kind of a voice lends itself to this particular kind of character, where you have like the lower end vibrato, where it sort of sits here in the evil scheme of things. Now, obviously, they're not. Obviously, it sounds like these rainwalkers are not evil people, but
no. I mean, they feel like, for example, like if you had like a leader of this group of rainwalkers, maybe a guild master, or maybe even like, the grand creator of the rainwalkers, these waters are a gift from the gods. And people don't understand. They think we are mad, but we're not. No. It is a gift. The gods themselves speak through us, and then in turn that we speak through the stone, speak through the paint, speak through the canvas, speak through plays, stories, words, thoughts, ideas, emotions. Many people don't understand that water is life, water is thought is water. Because again, it affects your mind. If you have suddenly a great idea and someone just crams that into your noggin, it's going to affect you a little bit. Now, every time water hits you, or at least this special rain hits you, all of a sudden you're getting crammed with all this, all this information and everything else. And it's like a small electrical surge, right? It's a little electrical surge in your brain. Of course, your brain being, electrical as it is, can only do that so many times before it starts shorting out and you start going a little weird. So, and that is something that is, I can totally see that. Maybe these people, walk this fine line between genius and madness, and and they create things that seem so abstract and impressionist, and it's like a melding of two great things. Maybe only this city or only this town has this affliction, this thing. So
it's almost like a plague, but they don't, and they're like quarantining these people off, saying, all right, cool, you rainwalkers, you're walled off on this side of our city, we're not going to touch you.
Definitely. But their art is highly prized because it is so genius. It is so, it is so beautiful. Even craftsmen that create, either like different types of machines or engineers or people that create, even weapons, like some of the most beautiful and deadly things come from this town, this city that it's highly sought after. But it's like, this is amazing, but I mean, I just don't have it.
Exactly.
Around,
I like the idea that these guys might have like there might even be like an underground art market, right? For like the dry touched people, the people that are in the noble districts that are like, oh, I really want to own this piece of art because this piece of art's beautiful, but I don't want the quarantine to touch me. So bring it to me and I'll have it. And then maybe there's even like these specific nobles that are like really sort of against the rainwalkers in all aspects, and like they have this even hauntier idealism of like,
dear sir, is that a rainwalker painting I see in your parlor?
Completely.
That is absolutely audacious and madness.
We shall not be friends again.
But at the same time, still highly sought after.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's still like, oh my, what a very interesting piece. What do you think was going through the mind of this rainwalker when he created it? It's people find it interesting. It's like it's like the grotesque and the beautiful. You don't want to look at it, but you want to keep looking at it.
Have you ever played BioShock?
I have not, but thanks to YouTube, I've seen enough Let's Plays that it does seem like really cool stuff.
Okay, so there's a character in that reminds me of this exact scenario, which I could totally see myself using that character for, say, like a rainwalker in this scenario. Sander Cohen is the name of the character. He is the artist that has just gone completely mad inside of Rapture. And he, like, I don't know, there's a scene, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a scene where he has like these dancers strapped to electrical cords, and they're dancing in water. And like, if he doesn't like what they're doing, he sets them on, like he electrocutes them.
Oh yeah.
And it's insane madness, but it's beautiful at the same time.
Yeah, that's some pretty freaky deaky stuff right there.
Yeah,
but no, I definitely see where you're going with that, and and I think again, NPCs, like with the rainwalkers, I could see that kind of mix of genius and madness, and that's something. As a matter of fact, if you wanted, and again, ideas you can steal from actors. You watch A Beautiful Mind. You watch. I can't remember the name of the gentleman who played. it's in Dracula. You know, the one with Keanu Reeves and well, the one with Gary Oldman. If I'm going to use like an actor that's actually really good in it. But the guy who plays Renfield,
Okay.
he has this beautiful balance between genius and madness, and when he's speaking to Keanu Reeves' character and Bill Paxton's character and Sir Anthony Hopkins, he like speaking to it, you can see that he's trying to break out of this madness, and he's an incredibly intelligent person. That right there, or even if you want to go with Sir Anthony Hopkins in his role of Hannibal Lecter, he is genius, but he's also bat poop crazy. He's guano nuts.
Guano nuts.
He's guano nuts.
Hey, that's what. That is now going to be canon. Like,
all right.
I like the idea of I'm just going to use that in a normal everyday conversation now. There, Mike thinks guano nuts is going to be a new word in my vocabulary.
There you go. There you go. Note that on this day, BrigadeCon 2016, the term guano nuts was coined.
Yes, we've eventually started our own vocabulary. But one of the things that I think would be really beneficial is I can see again, we talked about actors that could really do something like this. I like the idea of, say, like a Christopher Walken or a Christopher Lloyd would be really cool because they'd just be so out there to do it. Do you remember the age of water? I remember it well. There were floods like no other, and many of us were lost in the aftermath. But dear Lord, look at what I've done! And it's just this big giant painting of just nothing but paint drips, but it makes sense to him, right? Or somebody like Christopher Walken would be like, "You understand? I can't possibly part with this piece of art.
Needs more commas.
More commas. Okay. Slowly but surely, you'll end up with a
there it is.
You like.
Yeah, and exactly, and I mean, and that's something that's very. Again, which I cannot wait to look into this writer's guide to character traits. I'm sure heavy pauses are another part of adding character to your to your character. That was terrible. Look, man, I'm running out of coffee. Okay, I'm doing what I can here, but and now that we pretty much have the Rainwalkers completely and utterly done up, then you can look at other NPCs. How do characters interact? How do these these dry touched? How do they interact with with these Rainwalkers? Do they are they if you, let's say, your players and you're running this and your players come across kind of an arid society and a Rainwalker maybe having an argument in the street, maybe on one of those rare occasions, maybe they're the arid, the member of the arid, so the dry touched is holding this very large, very ornate umbrella. Maybe umbrella salesmen are like jewelers in this city where to have a very proper, very protected umbrella is very important. People may even be killed for their umbrellas. It sounds ridiculous, but in a world where rain kind of really affects and destroys your mind, you need this thing, holding this umbrella, this dry touch could be yelling at this Rainwalker who's just trying to enjoy it. The Rainwalker's trying to explain to him, no, remove the coverings, let the gods rain down inspiration.
Are you mad, sir? This is my umbrella, and I will not have you steal it. I will have the guards on you in a moment.
I don't want to steal your umbrella, sir. You don't understand. You just take it. Let the rain, let the cleansing, let the inspiration cover you in its glory.
What possible inspiration can you gather from rain?
Do you understand it? It opens the mind. It opens the mind. It sends messages from the gods. They come into here, and out of here comes creativity, comes glory, comes art, comes beauty. You don't understand. You are just dry touched. You will never understand truly art. You will never understand truly what it means to be touched by the gods themselves.
I love that, dude. I imagine that then at that point he even would look at you and go, "You mean if I touch your rain, your infected, quarantined rain, that I too might have creative wisdom?" As if to say that this man is even beginning to think that, hey, I kind of want to rise in my standings. My fellow dry touched are seeing me as kind of a low ball on the totem pole. Maybe if I get a little bit of rain, it'll be a little bit different. And I imagine like he's sitting there with this umbrella like tucked really close to himself, and then he sticks a hand out. And just a couple of drops.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, and his mind just
boom.
Yeah. In the chat, Nicholas actually had a very good kind of a cool idea. A faction that vowed to destroy the water touched because they believe the change they bring is heresy, and the society should stay as it is. And you know what? That could almost be a sub-faction from these dry touched people, from this arid society, this high class people. You know, maybe these individuals are, you know, they don't want to just ridicule or ignore, you know, these rainwalkers. They want to say no. They're more militant. They say, you know what? No, they are wrong. There is something inherently wrong. They are a detriment to society and to the grand scheme of things. You know?
I imagine you'd call them something like the drainers, right? Like they go out and they are going to sop up and soak up and just destroy all water touched. They're going to drain the city of this filthy, disgusting, plague-ridden creativity. Like if bards are considered like in this society like pushing, they're just either trying to push them out of the city or they're going to quarantine them off, because maybe the nobility say, no, you know what, no, we want to keep them here, but we don't want them, we're going to exile them to a specific sector of our city.
Exactly. So they're ostracized, but they're still seen as a necessity to because culture and art and everything else.
Because there are certain people, there are certain factions that are saying no. You don't understand. This plague will eventually affect you. This plague will eventually affect me. We got to burn that to the ground today. Everything needs to be dry. Suck it out with a siphon. Or hey, what about this? What if the drainers are actually trying to find a way to stop clouds, to stop the rain, like actually physically stop the rain?
Yeah, like through magic or something to that effect. Yeah, I mean that would be pretty interesting. That would be extremely interesting, actually, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it would also make sense that, you know, because the rain affects you in so many different ways, that perhaps this city is more like, and just go with me on this one, a shopping mall.
Oh yeah.
Where they try not to touch the rain. They've built, you know, like streets, you know, in tunnels and large boulevards, you know, everything is covered up, and the rain is, you know, they try to move things away when people, you know, begin to only when people begin to like purposefully walk out into the rain do they. Now there are probably areas that are like opened and everything else, because you still need the sun. But, you know, like for the most part, you know, homes are probably like thoroughfares, which are covered over in like, you know, in tunnels with like either fake like torches and everything else. You know, people still walk through. But, you know, again, carrying an umbrella is a status symbol, and, you know, people still do it. People still have to go, you know, outside into the rain to, you know, to carry on. But, you know, they'll have these, you know, maybe these large umbrellas that come into this like straight out, but almost like you're carrying a canvas tarp over top of you, you know, these great big heavy, and, you know, the higher you're up in status, maybe they have someone else holding that for you, you know, who has their own slightly smaller umbrella that they're carrying an umbrella. And, you know, it's just this like really big, you know, ostentatious, you know, umbrellas are just this ostentatious representation of society. That's so ridiculous. That's so ridiculous. It makes sense.
Dude, I love it. Like, do you see how in like the very short amount of time that we just spent on this, we spent like what, the last 30 minutes of this chat building a faction and then doing this, and that's literally only two of the possibilities that are in this damn book. Like, it is so good. And the thing is, you can take it from every chapter. And what I do, because a lot of these are attributed for like sci-fi things and for other types of writing. So a lot of times, if you get say a specific phrase or a specific starter situation that doesn't fit like D&D, you can always recraft it and retouch it to fit like a D&D setting. If you're running something for D&D, you can always recraft it to do something for Call of Cthulhu. You could always do whatever you want to do with this book. I think it's a fantastic resource for stuff.
Oh, definitely. As a matter of fact, the scenario and the faction in question that we just spoke about would be perfect for Numenera.
Yeah.
And Numenera is all about really weird, freaky deaky stuff. And, you know, something like that totally makes sense. Fate, you know, someone wants to turn this into their own world, have at her. You know, I mean, it's one of those things where when you start thinking about like, and keep in mind, I know this is about NPCs and voices and voice characteristics,
right?
But you noticed how we started kind of a little bit outside of where our target is. You know, so you start like with, okay, you have this town where this thing happens. Well, because this thing happens, whether it's a detriment or a bonus, you know, how does the culture, how does the city and the people react to that? And then you start making kind of logical steps. You know, you create this staircase of logic, and you go, okay, well, if that happens, then this probably happens. And if people, you know, act like that, well, then how does society, you know, kind of turn around and make it? You know, how does society say, okay, this is how, you know, people react, and this is how people are with this thing. Okay, so this is what we do. You know, and then this is how, you know, as there generally is a class system no matter where you go. Not always. I mean, you could have like a utopian, you know, communist society where people all work together toward the same goal. And, you know, in this world, they actually made communism work, which, you know, could never happen, but maybe they did. You know, you don't know. Or maybe, you know, this is a dystopian future where it's, you know, things are ruled from an iron fist by some like, you know, fascist dictator, and people just kind of trudge along on their own, you know, in their own accord, and, you know, it works for them. You know, as societies react to different stimuli, you know, governments, cultures, slang, you know, as we, you know, those damn dry touch, you know, they don't know what it is to live, you know, or, you know, like these rainwalkers, you know, they're, you know, faces are melted and distorted by the water. You know, they call it a gift from the gods, but it's actually a curse. You know, you start pulling in ideas, and you start thinking, okay, well, you know, if someone were to talk to one of these people, you know, how are they? What are they like?
Yeah.
You know, and then as you create NPCs, you know, each one you got to think of like first when you start, you know, creating something, you think of the society as a whole. how do they react to certain stimuli? And then as they react to it, I'll say, okay, so from that society, you've got groups of people that say, okay, you know, like they react to this thing in their own way, in their groups. And then as you bring it in even further, then now you have, okay, each individual has a backstory, has a history with this thing. How do they as individuals react to this thing? And that's when you start getting a smattering of diverse NPCs where, you know, you can just say, okay, you know what, maybe this person likes it, this person doesn't. You know, this person grew up with Rainwalker parents, but they hate the idea of going out and having this affliction on them. You know,
I think that is a perfect moment where you start giving it to the player, right? Like you give that to the player. Say like, all right, here is the scenario. Here's some of the NPCs we've got. But how does this world event, how do these world things now affect you as a player? And then that will attribute giving those kind of attributes you were just talking about, Mike, to, oh man, now I have this really cool, diverse character that comes from Rainwalker parents, but he's ashamed of his Rainwalker parents. Like, holy crap, I don't want to be seen with these like mutated, grotesque sort of, you know, paint dripping parents. And they really want me to be a bard, or they really want me to be like this singer or this muse for the rain. But I hate the rain. Like I've lived with it my whole life, and I don't want to be around it.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's, you know, people, and again, you know, you have the individual that wants to, like, for example, a matter of fact, we'll go back on your BioShock example for just a moment. You have someone, maybe the teenage son or daughter of like these aristocrat, dry-touched family, and you know, they're like, you know what, I love dancing. I've always wanted to be a dancer, but I don't have the coordination. I don't have the skill, and I want, if I just got a touch of rain, if I got just a touch, I don't have to be a full Rainwalker, just a little bit. I want that feeling to, so I can just share my passion, you know, for moving and gliding through the air, and you know, and art, and there's another one right there, right? You have the kind of the polar opposite, because you have this you know, this person, this arid society person who doesn't want to be, you know, who can't, like, who doesn't want to, like, you know, basically be, you know, disfigured from this strange water, but at the same time, it's like, I just want to be better than myself, you know, and there you go. Then now it's coming straight to almost its smallest point, where you have, you know, what is the motivation? What is the idea behind this NPC? I want to be better than myself. You know, like same with the, you know, when you go with that Rainwalker who hates the fact that you know, the rain, they don't want to be a part of it. You know, comes right down to that small little nugget of information. I don't want to end up like my parents, or I want to be better.
Yeah.
You know,
I want to be better than my parents, or I don't want to be as afflicted as my parents.
Yeah.
And I have no desire to be this magical bard mage thing. The one thing that I think is very important in that aspect is, like, what happens now? Like, you got me thinking now, what happens if the rain has these magical effects that are almost drug-like, right? So one small little bump of rain now sends you into this sort of, like, you may not think it now, but a week, 2 weeks, a month goes by, and now your hand that you touch the rain with starts to itch, gets that little scratch, gets that little itch that, like, it needs to be wet again. I need to touch that rain. Because what if the creative processes, right, and your creative talents were haltered by, like, if I don't get myself wet or drenched by rain or somehow acquire rain, I lose my talent, right? So now it's a matter of making rain almost into a drug. Either you can step out into the rain and get completely drenched in it and lose your mind, or I imagine that like there are these dry touched individuals who want that creative prowess, but they don't want to have to get destroyed by it. So they make these like rainwater vials into a black market drug where there are these collectors that like collect it just for that purpose.
See, I like that. I like that so much because I was actually on the same thought process as you. But what I'm thinking of too is that maybe this rain has just a bit of an oily sheen to it. You know, maybe it's like it seems like water, but it's not quite there. But the act of drinking it, maybe it dilutes it like heavily. Like you have to ingest it. If you ingest it, it takes a little while. But with the rain, it's just like pure inspiration. But with that, maybe it makes you like a bit more charismatic, maybe a bit more, interesting, and maybe maybe there's something like they have something where it's like by even though it may be illicit, even though it's just water come from the sky, maybe an illicit thing when they mix it with something else, and you get this kind of euphoric feeling. Maybe it's called euphorum, and
I love it,
and
that's
it's
awesome.
And it's like this, this great, this great drug that, people just absolutely love, or maybe even this great drink, maybe you can get it at bars, even though it's like not quite, it's like maybe not necessarily flat out illegal, but maybe it's just like kind of gray, it's that kind of like, you technically can't really drink it or sell it, but it's one of those like the worst kept secret ever. If you go in and you ask the right questions, you say the right things, you can get euphorum in a tavern. It's like ale mixed with this little bit of this thing where you can be the life of the party. Drink euphorum, or have your ale cut with euphorum. It's a nice relaxing tonic. Coming back onto like the old like 1800s ideas about like have opioids. It's a new thing. It's like it contains contains poppy seeds and a little bit of heroin, a little bit of cocaine, but it's good for you.
One of the things that like I'm imagining is like this barkeep that's like,
so
I like the fact that like the arid people, like this arid dry touch society might even have that very whispery sort of like voice, right? Like they're,
so I hear you're looking to get a little bit wet under the ears.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I love that because it's again, when you start taking all of these like different like euphemisms, it makes sense because in this society, in this world, the rain is such a big part of their culture and such a big detriment to their culture. And it's this like dichotomy where it's like you want it but you don't want it. You want
the benefits to control it pretty much. Yeah,
exactly. And in a society like that, where actually, if anything, like to me, it almost seems hedonistic, and only because you have this smattering of art and all these things, and very materialistic. People want all this like, I just got the latest art from Rainwalker, and that's what they maybe even call it, like Rainwalker Stanton, one of the great artists of the time. Just got this latest painting commission by him. He was actually out in the rain for almost a month, gathering together the resources to do this grand painting.
Yeah.
And while they pay these artists very, very well, and very, very like they're wealthy, but they're still ostracized. And I think that's like a very interesting split from.
Mike, what if you were? I love that idea of something that like they've been out in the rain for like a month, and I know we're going long here, but like honestly, I'm having so much fun that I don't care. But what if the guy, or what if any character, say an NPC, is a rainwalker, and they've been out in the rain for 6 months, right? And just getting drenched. Imagine what they would look like then. I imagine that they would come back quarantine zone, or they would try to sell their wares. What if their face has just become nothing more than like almost like skull fragments with just dangling skin underneath the bottom, and like the eye sockets are still there, the eyes are still there, right? Everything's still there, but everything is so sagged that it looks almost like it's just a skin like flap against skull, and it's that creepy and scary. I imagine that, like, voices wise, you'd end up with something like,
"Hello, Rainwalker. How have you been?"
Yeah, and I mean, or there could be people that speak for these individuals.
oh yeah.
Perhaps like at that point, it's like they have a lot of money, so they have people who
C3POs. They've got like their own C3POs.
Well,
I speak
in
13 different languages.
Exactly, but and that's a very good possibility. They'll write down. Maybe these people can't even speak anymore. They'll just be wearing a mask, so they don't. Or just to kind of keep their face together from it completely sloughing off, and they could, you could die from that. So they have to wear a mask to kind of keep their faces like on to their skulls, like keep most of their bodies on.
That's awesome.
And maybe, hitting the skin, like maybe only the head, like hitting the top of the head, is what provides the inspiration. Anything else is detrimental. So maybe these people wear full on like kind of like suits or protective gear with like oilskin leather, and maybe they just like they'll have an oilskin hat or some sort of an oilskin like full face, like a hazmat helmet, and then they just take it off, and they just kind of, that's when they they let it wash over their minds, and that is great, that is a great thing that where they begin to like have this this sense.
Dude, I'm gonna write no joke. I'm gonna write a world for this. Like, I'm gonna write this world, and like I want to play a one shot in this scenario, because this sounds so awesome now. Like, I can't tell you how much like I want to play in this right now. This is so cool. So I definitely am gonna be rewatching this afterwards to have these sort of scenarios. But I want to say thank you so much for being up this morning with me. What I'm going to do, for those of you who are expecting Rob to be here with us today, I don't know what happened, and it's perfectly fine that Rob's not here. Rob, dude, I love you. And we care about you a lot. And if you somehow misinterpreted, that's perfectly fine. If you want to hit me up later, I will gladly do another stream with just Rob and myself doing the same thing, and we'll kind of get some things going. But it's about 7:30. Do you want to wrap up, and so you can kind of go back to sleep and get some sleep? Or, I mean, it's up to you. It's up to you. I'm not trying to push you out. I just noticed it's like 7:30, and
yeah, no, that's I think
for about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good time to kind of wrap things up. I mean, I've had such a great time, and I'm so happy that able to talk about something that we're both passionate about, and especially in a way that also is like a big thing for charity. Yeah. And I know we're talking about charity like a lot through the stream, but to be honest, like I think this is so important. It's important to so many people that people that are watching go out and donate and go out and just kind of like spread the joy around, especially to children. I've had a blast. I can't believe we just made a whole freaking world. Well, maybe not even a world, but at least a town.
We made like at least a city in that society, and you could even expand it out to the full world. But I mean, like, just the idea that there is a city that is so racked with rainwater, that like the whole society has now been built upon that. There are an extensive amount of ideas just like that in this book, and like I highly recommend you go pick them up, because I've been using it for other games right now. Like you just, all it is you write 2 or 3 sentences that are based out of this book, and then you go to town on it. Because without you, Mike, I would not have come up with, like I like the idea of collaborative world building and doing it with other people. So that in and of itself is a good thing. Write down maybe 2 or 3 sentences that you think would describe like a world, or describe like the start of a campaign. Like right there, the invasion of the bardic rainwalkers who overtake like the council for the dry touched, and then they now have to do like a mock trial of, you're the reason that we no longer have our reign. You're the reason we no longer can be as creative as we are, blah, blah, blah. But then at the end, they sort of become themselves like these very haughty and overbearing individuals who are almost ostracizing the dry touched at this point and saying like, you're no better than we are, but now we're going to quarantine you instead of you quarantining us, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, it's been a blast, man. I love you. Thank you so much. Do you want, other than to prompt the BrigadeCons, do you want to do your sign off? I will do your sign off for you if you want.
You know what? I mean, other than yes, I mean, I do have a channel. Check it out if you guys are so inclined. But the most important thing is that everyone just go on to all the BrigadeCon, the games, the panels, the chats that are at brigadecon.org. Hop on that. I may be popping in and out of Hangouts just to say hi to everyone. It's really nice to meet all the people in the brigade and the community, members of the RPG Brigade, the Tabletop One Shot Group, Absolute Tabletop, even the I think it's the Tabletop Role Playing Game Club. Also, the Tides of Change. There are so many phenomenal groups on Facebook. Go in, have a look at people, and come join the Hangouts. Even if you're not watching a game at that moment, or maybe you're watching a game kind of in the background, you want to just like talk to people. Maybe you guys want to hang out on one Hangout just to watch one game and then talk about it. Kind of a director's commentary as it's happening. Go for it. Just have a blast. Give to charity and just have a great time here at BrigadeCon. BrigadeCon was put on amazingly well this year. Andre Martinez is amazing. He is a prince. The amount of hard work and dedication that he's put into making this all go smoothly has paid off 1,000-fold.
The man dude is a mastermind.
And I believe he's hanging out on one of the Hangouts. Stop in and thank him.
Yeah.
Same with Barker. Barker and Andre have worked tirelessly to put this thing together. Maybe go in and just say thanks, because you know what? They deserve it. At the
end of the day, these guys have just busted their butts to do this, and just to say thank you to guys like Andre and Barker, and I'm sure that there are others out there, behind the scenes that I'm not familiar with. To everyone who has been doing all of the prep work for BrigadeCon this year, for 2016, and presumably 2017, and further and further and further, because I don't ever want to stop doing this. But for those of you who are out there, who are just now getting to the channel, obviously we are wrapping up. This has been fantastic. But I am going to, you know what, after today, I realize I'm going to be doing more of these collective performances, even if it's just one-on-ones like with me and Mike. I'm going to do more of these collective performance things. I think it's wonderful. What I'll probably end up doing is I'll probably have Rob on if Rob's available later. I may even try to squeeze in another collective performance with Rob later today. We'll just set up a YouTube hangout and just go to town if he's available.
I think that's a great idea.
If not, I will just schedule it for another day and we'll do it another day. But that's what you guys are going to look forward to coming up on my channel. Is I'm going to start doing more collective performance stuff. I'm going to do more of the character compendium stuff. Actually, I'll probably have some of those very characters we talked about today for the Rainwalkers portrayed in the upcoming character compendium for episode 2. I think that would be really cool. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. My name is Chad Nick. You can find me at Chad Nick on YouTube because you're already here. If you're watching this, you're already here. You're already doing it. If you could please do me a favor and maybe subscribe button would be awesome. If you liked what you saw here today, that'd be great. Most importantly, though, BrigadeCon. Leave my channel right now or go down. I think I have the link in the bottom of the actual thing. If you would please do me a favor and go to that BrigadeCon link and then also click that donate button like your life depended on it. That'd be awesome. As always, my name is Chad, DM Gastro Gamer. I love you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out and just being awesome.
Just before,
you're good.
Nicholas asked, "What is his YouTube name?" I believe Andre is going with the BrigadeCon.
Brigade. It's just BrigadeCon. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll just be BrigadeCon, and that'll be him when he's on air, or at least talking in chats or whatnot have you. So so if you want to if you recognize him there, just drop him and say, "Hey, Andre, excuse me.
Yeah,
thank you for all your hard work." Sorry again.
The
brain is not
the brain.
Yeah, we're getting there. Plus, I'm out of coffee again. See, so that's not cool.
What's that? Third cup now? We're good.
Oh goodness, no! I said I was up at 4, so that was like cup number 5. I just quaffed. So I'm gonna go on cup number 6 pretty soon.
Okay, man. Anyways, dude, I love you. Thank you so much for chilling with me. You're like a brother. I love
Thanks
it.
for having me, man.
Yeah,
it was my pleasure.
One of these days, either you got to come to me or I got to come out there and visit you, and we gotta chill and then do some D&D stuff.
Definitely, we could also meet in the middle and just like hang out at the duty-free store right at the border.
Yeah, man, I will gladly meet you at the border of Canada and then just sort of wave at you from the border patrol. Hi. No, I mean I have that enhanced driver's license, so I can get over there.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we're good. Dude, it's been awesome. Again, everybody who's stuck with us and been there with us, thank you so much for dealing with our ramblings this morning. Our incoherent ramblings at 5 a.m. It's been a blast. I hope you guys all had fun. I did. I'm probably going to go back and watch this later and realize how much of a dork I was. But until then, thank you guys so much. And I look forward to future episodes.
And getting inspired.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm trying to end the call. I want to end the broadcast. There we go.